impacting lives, building leaders all around the world. Let us keep our dreams alive, 'cause tomorrow's gonna be a better day.
Welcome back to the Kettle World Youth Network, podcast where we connect with young leaders and voices from around the globe. Today, we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Peru to share their perspectives on the current situation and the rich tapestry and culture of their country. And we have here Danirin, Kettle board member from Peru. Welcome, Danny.
Hello, everyone.
So me and Danny, we met for the first time at the Atlanta conference in 2023. And we loved having all the conversations about Peru, and it was like a very beautiful cultural exchange. And for me personally, from then on, I've been waiting to have this podcast with you, Danny. And I'm so happy we are doing this today. And I know Danny very well. We all know as a Kettle board member, but there's so much more to what Danny is doing. And I would like Danny to quickly introduce herself before we start off.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here to share about my country and as well as my continent. Well, my name is Danerin Antonio Mendita Vargas. I'm Peruvian. I'm 19 years old. I'm currently studying the Bachelor in Political Science in Paris at Sciences Po Paris. And at the same time, I'm working at the FDA, the International Federation of Human Rights. I'm created a volunteering program in Peru to help vulnerable children and women. In addition to this, start this year, I was our member at the Kettle program too.
Great. Thank you, Danny. And I remember you were one of the youngest people to attend the Kettle conference in 2023, right?
Yes. In 2023, I was 18.
Yeah, just 8. Yeah. And as a board member too, I think Danny is one of the youngest board members we have in Kettle, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Yes.
You heard that.
Yes, we have a young achiever here, and I'm so happy and so proud of you, Danny. And for everyone who is listening in, Kettle has had a lot of Spanish-speaking colleagues join in, and we've seen that there has been a lot of requests for non-English version of Kettle, and we have a AI companion called Kai, which has been released, and Danny has also been instrumental in making sure that we have AI assistant to help us, incorporate Spanish also into the Kettle program. It's still in the very early stages, but it was one of the biggest milestones for us, Kai, Kettle AI, and Kettle in Spanish. It's a work in progress, but Danny is the one who actually showed us that that's also possible. So that's one other thing that you should know about Danny before we start off. Now, let's dive right into some of the pressing issues and very fascinating aspects about Peru today. I've also been reading so much in the newspaper about what's currently happening in Peru. And what we know is that there has been, recently there has been a state of emergency that was declared in Lima, in Peru, and even the military has been deployed there. Danny, can you explain what's the situation, what's the atmosphere like, and anything and everything that the listeners should know about what's currently happening in Peru?
Well, from the start of this 2025, Peru confronts a hard situation about security issues, which affected the Peruvian community in general. Well, last March 16, Paul Flores, the lead singer of a famous cumbia band called Armonía 10, was shot and killed in an attack on the band's bus. This happened after months of threats and extortion attempts against the group. I took this example because it's one of the most famous that happened during the last days, but the situation was prolonged from the middle of January, so you can imagine the magnitude, the impact of these actions against the Peruvian community, because it affects the each society level, each economical and society level in my country. But against that, however, the Peruvian government didn't do nothing to create as a solution to help that community. The unique action that they decided to do was declared the 30 days of states of emergency in Lima and Callao. And this situation allows the military and army to assist the police and in the processes to tracking the crime. At the same time, they were allowing to use the arms in that particular case if it's necessary. But well, it's not the first time that the government took this decision. Before that, we confronted the same situation between 2020, 2022. It's currently a cyclical situation that affected not only famous people, as we can listen in that case, it's affected also Peruvian who decided to start a own business, small ones or emergent as well. So it's affected also our economy grow because we don't have the opportunity to create the offer, to create opportunity to labor. We don't have the security as well. It's not only to affect our economic development as well as our private life, because this a situation that affected many times a women community who was the main victim in these cases too. So it's one of the biggest problems that come from my country now. Yes, it's a little bit about the currently situation.
Yes, Danny, I also read so much, and especially I did see a quote in the newspaper that citizens feel safe now that the army is on the streets. Uh, what's your opinion on that, from your perspective and what you have heard from peers, your friends and family in Peru? Are there fears and concerns around in the military presence around civilians? Has it impacted daily life, or has the situation just become better because of the military's presence?
This situation started many time ago, actually, but I believe after the last government of Dina Boluarte was started more than a year ago. The situation was intensified of the frequency and the critical level of that impacted in our community, because I have other example, for example, here. Recently, a 50 years old barber in the district of Ate, part of the metropolitan Lima, was found dead at home after receiving extortion threats. These cases happened every day, everywhere, because I know many entrepreneurs who was victim about these extortion cases. So at the same time, I believe that when someone decided to go to the police officers and do take a security demand to protect his business, his life, his family, because many times the extortion criminal bands decided to say to you, if you don't pay this amount of money, your daughter, your mother, your wife will kill by us. So uh, in that cases, the police couldn't do nothing because they act when that crime was happened. So uh, many of the prevention actions that don't work as we can expect that, and after that, when the crime happened, they couldn't do, from my own opinion, a correctly procedure to find justice for these families or for these people, because many times the one police institution was involucrating this in these bands. Not all the community, but we could find many cases where the criminal bands collaborate with the police to reduce the possibility to capture them, the possibility to take more consequence after the crime happened. So finally, and well, all the public who will listen that can confirm my perspective with the statistic, where the community uh, believe that believes that I think the percentage of perception of the corruption and the confidence and the police officer corp is less than 30%. We are a population of more than 35 million people, and in Lima, the population in relation with this quantity, we are the 45% of the total population in Peru. So you can imagine in all the region of where is part of Lima, all that costly region, we have this percentage of population, more than 50%, right? So we can imagine the impact for us uh, as population, because we believe we don't protect by the responsible one who has this responsibility, has this work for in relation with us. So yeah, this may be other important factors that affect the situation and complicated that as well.
When did the crime ban start? I mean, like, when did this start actually? Which year did the crime bans become this active? How long has it been now?
How long is the period?
Yeah, I mean, how long has the crime band been very active? Like, are we talking about 3-4 years back, 5 years back, or have they been active for like decades?
No, I have this to disagree that this idea, because many people say that it started within a Boluarte's government. I disagree with this position, because the extortion procedures was present in our community last 20 years or 30 years ago, because I believe we normally say a lot these cases because before before last governments, from Castillo's government, from, well, before the pandemic, we had many of these cases, but in with less frequency than now, and same as I believe we had normalized cases like when a driver stopped by the police officer, and maybe the driver hasn't enough documents, regulatory mandatory documents, with the technically they has to drive his vehicle, and the solution that happened in these cases was paid to the police an amount to avoid the mults or other legal consequence to this driver, right? So in this, for example, this is a sample cases that happen many times, uncountable times, but the our community normalize that because we say, well, it's like this is a function of the way that function the justice or function the society, but that's the reason that I believe that one of the main problem, in addition to the criminal bans, in that case, because I believe it's our way of thinking in the currently life, because we normalize that, and in consequence of that, I believe the problem grew up. So I believe sincerely the problem was harder during the pandemic, because during the pandemic was identified as a vulnerable community, because our health system, the public health system, as hospitals, emergencies, departments, as well as the centralization of these services in the capital in Lima, uh, affected a lot our Peruvian community, because the Peruvian community isn't only the Lima community, it's all the 24 regions on all the Peruvian territory. And we found many issues and correlate with that, because many people died in the vulnerable region, as the Los Andes and the forest and the Amazon forest too, because the government actions didn't prevent this. Well, I believe any government around the world imagine the impact of the pandemic, but at the same time, before the pandemic, we have other endemic situation in our territories, and didn't do nothing for promote the decentralization, accessibility to primary service, because the health, the education, the correct food is for me it's a basic right, but at the same time, for the government of Peru, wasn't a priority issues in our agenda to take action, and that's probably one of the reasons that impact in the to favorize the criminal bans, because you can imagine a family who had sent access to priority rights, to primary rights, hasn't enough good income to pay a good school, to pay a good services of health, a good food, well, everything around that. Because many families in Peru has a income lower than the basic cost of life, so it's affected too. And at the same time, many of these criminal bands take strategies like that say something like, if you don't pay that, your family will die. Your family will killed by us. Well, you can imagine the security aspect impacted more with all others issues that I told that's last second. So yeah, I believe it's a progressive problem that we're up with the time, but at the same time now it's an unsupportable level. We argue for a final change and listen our voice because in the national levels, also the justice level in the national background doesn't do no, doesn't do a lot of things for promote the against that government, against actions that the government that currently government that do.
Yeah, I get it now. And I mean, for you, like from your perspective and from the youth voices that you've heard around you, what could be a long-term solution that can help to solve the root cause of all the violence that is happening in Peru right now?
Well, from my own analysis, I believe we will confront this serious situation for next month until the new elections because sincerely I can see a quickly solution now because the legislative power and the executive power from its located Dinamo Luarte and ministers and all this this side of the government are has a complot with the legislative power. There is a congress, the unilateral power in this case, uh, to preserve the power on them until the new election. So we try to express our feeling, express our voice by protest, by a pacific protest. I have to emphasize in that because many times the government decided to criminalize the protest and avoid the protest right to ONGs and also civic community to express our feelings regarding to these issues. So we try to find a space to show this problem, but sincerely, I believe it's a harder situation that civic society can't control in our way. But for me, one of the long secure action where will be to close the misunderstanding informations about the new elections, the new political offers, because this issue, this problematic happened. It's a appear every 5 years when the elections take place. Many of them in the society didn't inform themselves about the political proposals, don't think about the impact of the vote because and also in addition to that it's not only to clarify the misunderstanding situation in these campaigns, it's also the education that will I had to change in that context because it's a circle. It's a cycle because if your family didn't access to the superior education as university career or university level, because if you can find a particular percentage in Peru, less than the half part of the population attended at universities or a good educational level. Some of them didn't finish the school, as well as many of them were working in the informalized context. So that's other problem. But well, yeah, our society has to focus on change our way of thinking, our prioritize the main problems and try to construct an a main perspective about what
Mm.
the thing that we can expect for the next 5 years. Because well, as I explained before, now the government of Dina Boluarte wasn't the elected government during the last election. The last election was Pedro Castillo was elected because we confronted two important powers in the historical Peruvian politics. That is Keiko Fujimori and Castillo represent an important battle between the traditional right and the extreme left. So, well, both political parties are extreme in these political positions, but well, this is a context to the previous context to how we arrived at that moment because Dina Boluarte was the vice president in that moment, and now is the first woman as a president in the history of Peru. But she didn't do nothing to change the situation. However, many journalists and the society as well as uh, identified that she made surgeries, changes in her face, in her body during last month. Yeah, it's a horrible surprise because she decides to change her nose, to modify her face.
Yeah.
Yes, during the time when the protest in Peru happened last month, during the a year ago. So for me, it's offensive. It's offensive not only for because you are the president. It's offensive because during the time when
Country is in emergency. Yeah.
your community tried to change the situation, tried to express what happened in the region, what happened uh, against the community, she didn't do nothing. And in addition to that, she only think in her own in business. So well,
My
in addition to this, she's from the Andes region, right? It's not the classical idea to centralization only Lima. She's from a vulnerable region in Peru. Well, just for that, but yeah.
Yeah. My God. I mean, I did want to ask you about your president, but this is coming out as a big surprise. I mean, when the whole country is in a state of emergency and when there is so much that a president can do, we would expect much more from a president than cosmetics, right? And the last elections were in 2021, and as you said, Dina Boluarte was not actually elected, but it was more like self-appointed. Was that how it happened?
Yeah. Well, she became the as president uh, less than 2 years ago, I believe. A year and couple of months ago. Because well, as I explained before, when the last election happened in Peru, Castillo was elected as president, but the majority on the Congress was from the other political party, which passed on the second round of the elections. So during the first year of his government, every month the Congressists try to find a reason to do a complaint to complain against the president at that moment. And well, Pedro Castillo, if someone didn't know nothing about him, was a local teacher at a primary school in the region of Cajamarca. He didn't study or had a previous experience in the political sphere, so he didn't be prepared for this position. But in Peru, the phenomena of who can be a potential candidate of for the Republic of Peru is not well. It's if you find some example, you will be surprised because many of them they didn't have a mandatory uh, request to decide to apply as a candidate in the elections, because I believe the unique requirement where you had to finish your school, and after that you you are 35 years at least.
Okay.
I believe if
Yeah.
you have applied at other any position in a corporative enterprise, or I don't know, any apply to a job, you have many requirements as language requirements, you have many experience requirement, but in this position in Peru, it wasn't mandatory. So depends on the on the community if they put its vote a favor of on any candidate. So yeah. Well, in that context, the moment when Dina Boluarte became president of the Republic of Peru, Castillo and was confronted a denounce from the Congress because they identified that he did a corruption action. So well, he tried to to go to the embassy of Mexico in Lima to apply to like a protection from this government, from the Mexican government. But in the way to do that, well, finally he tried to escape from the justice. So yeah, also it's not the Pedro Castillo wasn't a saint, but in that moment the police, in that specific case, in this particular case, the police was effective, and they captured the Castillo, and now is prisoner at the jail, but it's in a provisional period because he didn't. Well, his the procedure to judge him it didn't start until now, but well, it will start during the next government, I believe. But well, in that context, Dina Boluarte took the position of president, but at the same time, many people disagree this action. Well, in the constitution margins, it was the correct decision. It was a correct procedure to assume a new president because the constitution say if the president the president demit or the president retired from this position, the next new president will be the first vice president or the second one, at least the president of the Congress.
Okay. So she is actually eligible. That's how she.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was eligible to the position. It's not a for me. It's not it wasn't a crime. No, nothing at all. But during the moment when but at the same time, the protest right is allowed for everyone to express this idea, but without affect other life, right? So, many people did this protest because they disagree that she became the new president, but against the protest, Dina Boluarte and the police officers attacked the people who protested, and in that way, more than 50 people died,
Whoa, my God. Okay.
and more than 2,000 people was victim of many serious serious attacks in their bodies, and they have a medical consequence from that. So and after that, many journalists investigate the situation, and they confirm that Dina Boluarte allowed these actions taken by the police. So she is the intellectual author of these crimes, but as you can imagine, she didn't confront any justice process until now because she's the currently president of Peru. But yeah, many ONGs, and I think it's important to close this answer. Many ONGs, as I know, took many actions to put this case in front of international courts, as the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, and also in front of the Human Rights Committee of the UN. But now, the last week, the Congress approved a a particular law that prohibit the ONGs to take actions against the government of Peru. That's yes, in international courts, and in the national and in the international level. So if an ONG decided to denounce the government in Peru, the Peruvian state, at an international level, one of the consequences of that will be to have to pay around more than $370 million. So yeah, that's other action that the Congress tried to attempt against the right of expression, the right of the liberty, the right of the correct justice procedure. So now I believe that the state of Peru is critical and well, at the same time, many other countries, and I will talk about that in the next question. For example, I don't know, Mexico now. In Mexico happened the I believe the most horrible case of killers now. I don't know if you listen about Isaguirre case in Mexico. They discovered 3 or 4 days ago an extermination camp, which the narco bands used to kill many people who declared disappeared by their families. And well, it's a national loot for that because I believe it found more than 2,000 bodies in this space that was killed during the last year. So yeah, but at the same time in Argentina, the protests by the the adult of the third year. Well, many I believe it's a continent situation of the risk levels and I believe we feel as this protected community because finally the government of Peru closed every door, every possibility to find justice, to find a protection because, well, in front of who instant we can speak, we can try to find something like security or cautelars actions or I don't know. Well, that's one of the situation that we believe we are in a critical situation. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know about this incident of Mexico. Thank you for touching that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Puts a lot of things into perspective. And when you speak about other countries in South America and Latin American population, what comes to my mind is the new Trump government and the policies regarding immigration. Shall we move on to that topic, Danny? Is there something more you would like to add about the situation in Peru? Or are we good to move to the deportation issues that I really would love to discuss with you?
Yes. Yes. Well, if I imagine if many of our listeners knows about the Trump's policies according to migrated people, and well, it's other issues that the Latin American community confronts now in the United States because uh, during last weeks, I believe from the last month actually, many migrants who aren't regulated status, they haven't a regulated status in the United States, was offered of the deportation. I know and specific cases, for example, when the first group of Venezuelan who arrived, I believe 3 weeks ago, in Venezuela from the United States because Trump decided to deport them to to their return to their country. But in the wake of that, many of Venezuelan people stayed in the Panama hotel for more than 2 years, for more than 2 days, without any possibility to communicate with their families or to report their situation because I know many of them was big victims of the police force actions, illegitimate in these cases, because all the procedure to the deportation actions, all the steps to do that that they confront were hard, and many of them suffered the violation of human rights because according to the correctly justice procedures, it's not possible to deport someone who has a temporary status, in particular cases like in Venezuelan communities, or well, uh, to in also to respect the international uh, agreement. So, in addition to that, I remember a judge from, I don't know where state in the United States, but a judge put an contraction to cautelar actions to this decision of Trump, but it was late because when the actions take a relevant, important, a relevant state to act to use in this way. In this case, many of Venezuelan people arrive in Venezuela. So finally, the action didn't work as that you expect, but we can find that is irregulated procedures to do the exportation. And during last days, many people were deported from the United States to their countries, or not only to their countries. The other problem was to confuse many criminals with the migrated people, because well, as migrant in France, I believe many times we have to confront the stereotypes to why we are here. At the same time, that the situation happens in United States too. But in these cases, what happened? Trump and Bukele, who's the president of El Salvador, established an agreement to deport members of Tren de Aragua band, that is one of the biggest and the most dangerous band in Latin America, that they work in Peru as well, in many other Latin American countries too. But many of them are located too in the United States, and I recognize that. I know not every migrant are a good person, but I believe it's not the idea to prejudice someone in this argument, right? So yeah. But the idea to Trump, or the idea that Trump sold to the estadounidense community, was we will deport the members of these criminal organizations to Guantanamo.
Okay.
Where, if our listeners don't know nothing about Guantanamo created by the United States after the attempt acts against that Twins Towers in 2000 first. Yeah. Yes, thank you. To move the criminals who did these actions. But now the Guantanamo prisons is using as the new place for this member of these criminal organizations. But at the same time, many innocent migrants, for the unique argument that they used to move them to Guantanamo prison, was they are migrants. Because many of them didn't have any previous denounce, any previous registered criminal actions in their report. So, and many of them, well, yeah, there's the idea, but the government put everyone in the same group and move all the group to Guantanamo. So
It was mostly like waiting for an opportunity to just move out so many people at the same time, no matter whether they're a criminal or just an immigrant, right?
Yes, yes. Well, and I have to precise, Guantanamo is one of the prisons because it's not a prison located in El Salvador. Guantanamo is located in Cuba, if you know, and Cuba is also a dictator now. So it's other problem. Well, it's other situation in Cuba because it's an authoritarian government until last during the last 70 years, I believe. But Bukele collaborate with Trump to mobilize these people, and well as if you know, Bukele is also a authoritarian president now who leads this country with hard policies the against the crime. And I understood the first time why they took this action because El Salvador, before Bukele's government, front several but critical security issues with the Maras. There is the denomination for the criminal bands based in El Salvador, who took serious actions against the population because they located in particular neighborhood, in particular regions, and they don't allow the access to anyone else without pay before like extortion or something like that. And that's the situation in that moment. And this is the reason why people elect Bukele in that moment. And well, sincerely, he reduced the percentage of the crime in the country. That's true because after that, many members of these criminal bands went to the prison, the maximum prison that he created during the first government because he was reelected last year.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, many innocent people pay many condemns without any responsibility. So I believe many times the intention was good. Was not good, but was necessary in this context. But at the same time, they didn't calculate the impact on the innocent population, in the in the common population, the civil population. So, that's the situation now in these countries, in this authoritarian government, as like you can compare with Peru, but well.
Yeah, I get it. Oh, I was just reading up some of the statistics. So apparently, more than half of the people born in US are actually from the Latin American background.
Yeah.
And according to official reports, close to 77% of illegal immigrants, whom supposedly that's the target, but we are not seeing that actually. But I know, I mean, like all of us reading the newspaper, we all know the target is to work on the illegal immigrants, but a lot of other people are also the legal immigrants are also getting affected. But 77% of the immigrants in US are illegal as per the reports. So I've also heard about the hitchhiking and crossing the borders because even there has been a lot of people from India who are taken to places like Nicaragua, and from there they hitchhike and cross the border, and it's the most dangerous travel that anyone can take up. We have a word for it in India. It's called the donkey route, and a lot of immigrants from India have apparently reached US, and a lot of people have died and perished during the hitchhiking across the border. But a lot of people have reached there, and many have been deported too, in spite of so much trouble and spending so much money on those kind of cross-border adventures. But Danny, from coming from Peru, have you heard about such stories in Peru, and what is the reality of that?
Of course. Well, thank you so much for this question because, well, Well, before my answer, I believe I want to share this statement that I preserve with me every time now, and because I was touched with many cases, and I believe any migrant decide to migrate if they don't have a serious or critical situation from where they decide to escape. Because I noticed it in Europe, I noticed it in Peru with when Venezuelan community arrived in Peru during the first exile during 2015. I remember that migrants I believe migrants for the simple action to migrate weren't criminals because many of them escaped from a serious authoritarian governments where the situation of human rights and the accessibility to primary rights, as I told you before, the education system, the health system, the possibility to grow economically, and every of the essential factors to develop your life and the family's one. Um, it's not it's not happen. It doesn't happen in their original country. So that's the reason that many of them decided to migrate. And at the same time, in Latin America, during I believe the last 3 decades, the American dream was present a lot because for us, where many of us, Latin America represents the best example of development. And what's the way? Because for us, well, from our perspective, that the United States has a good system for health, a good educational level, and also that. Well, I have my personal approach about that, but well, yeah. Finally, it's a first. It's a country of the first world, so for us as developing countries, many of them has the idea to or the goal to build a new life in the United States. And that's the reason that many people from Mexico, from the frontiers in between Mexico and United States, or more longer distance, for example, from Colombia, from Peru, many people, many Venezuelans during the first these first the enormous exiled in 2020 2015 um, move across the Darien forest. It's one of the most dangerous places in Central America where many, not only criminal bands, they are narco traffic bands, they are more dangerous than criminal. Well, finally, both are dangerous, but narco traffickers communities, many people who traffic not only drug, only human, only also humans, but also women, also children. Many of them, this uh, for me the most dangerous criminal bands are located inside the Darien because in that particular place, any state, any country has a political power to take action. So many people decide to cross the Darien, and also there's like Central America countries, as you can tell before from the India community, to decide to arrive in the United States because many of them found auxiliary ways to find protections conditions, protections, po- well, options to stay in the United States, to work informally, to connect with someone who they met before in their countries, probably inside the United States, something like that. So for me, it's one of the dangerous decisions. So because many times I listened from European people, oh, but you decide to go to this to here because you have a easier life. Well, for me, it's not easier. For me, it's other type of challenge that you can confront. But at the same time, I believe when someone decided to migrate illegally, it's not for the main reason wasn't to have a easier life. It's maybe the unique option that they had in that moment. So, well, that's my perspective, no, and well, that's thing that I want to share.
Yeah. And about the cross-border immigration, the hitchhiking, have you heard about anything in particular? Like, is it still continuing, or after such stricter? I mean, like after announcing such strict laws regarding deportation, has those reduced? Do you know anything about it?
About
The illegal hitchhiking and immigration through the illegal route, the cross-border immigration.
well, I remember, I know during the Joe Biden's government, many, but a lot of people could across the frontier between Mexico and United States. This is one of the main arguments that Trump used to promote the vote to his party, because he said to United States community, I will close the frontiers. I will close the possibility to access to migrants.
Yeah.
But well, on the other hand, I I know we can find many cases of deportation, but at the same time, I can imagine how United States will continue with the without the migrant economic impact, because finally, when a Latino arrived in United States many times, our diplomas from the university or from the master level can't homologate in United States, because we know the educational system is different. The equivalence of official diplomas isn't the same one. So the point of this idea is many of them arrived to work in forced jobs, like construction of buildings, as house cleaning services, many of the informal services, but at the same time, I met I think many American people don't like the idea to do this kind of job. So many deported people did this kind of job, and finally, if we can analyze the percentage, I believe more than a half uh, force power to do this kind of work jobs. I try to say it, was migrants. So well,
The economy depends on them in a very, very large scale. And as I said, like 77% of the immigrants itself is the target. That means that's a huge number, more than half of the population, apparently. So, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. The economy will not stand; it will crumble if the, this whole action is taken in full force, and I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I really agree with you there. I mean, there's going to be some selective deportations, but I don't think they're really going to, you know, uh, implement it in full force because it does not sound practical.
Yeah, I believe. I hope he Trump, no, will open his mind and understand that finally it's important to open or facilitate the regulation procedures for migrants because from my point of view, well, I understand. I reaffirm my position. I understand for why many Americans supported in the last elections Trump because he said no, they used our advantage, our politics to benefit their own in their own way. But I believe if someone is working in a economic system in a particular country, for me, every government has the obligation, the responsibility to protect human rights, and for me, the access to a a good health service, for a good education, for a good state of food and so on. Also, that in correlation with that, for me, it's necessary. It's essential, particularly in the United States because it's a cosmopolitan country, right? I know it's not only issues with according to Latin American community. Many people from other continents, African people or Arabic countries, went to United States, decided to start a new life, a new opportunity, and finally, many of them, for not say everyone, works in this forced job. So finally, for me, this kind of job is not the safest one. It's not the easiest. In addition to that, so I know if for me it's legitimate that they can demand good essential condition to live in, but to live, but well, my perspective, right? So yeah, but well, I don't know how many time he spent to do the deportation action because well, finally I hope one moment he stopped with that, but in this moment I couldn't identify his intention in that way. So
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, so I think we have had a lot of grim conversations about Peru and Latin American situations, and but as I said, this is a place of teaming culture, and there's so much more that Peru has to offer, and that Danny has to share. And it's not just about the political situation, but some very fascinating side about Peru. So in one of our conversations when me and Danny met, Danny had mentioned about how Peruvians have embraced modern culture, embraced Christianity too, but they have also preferred to maintain their original traditions. There's so much knowledge that has been passed on from their grandmothers, and there's very ancient traditions that they still follow. And it's not necessary that it aligns very well with the modern belief systems, but Peru has devised a very beautiful way of balancing their past as well as their present. And it was something very fascinating to hear about that from Danny. And today, to the listeners, Danny, can you recount the same stories that you had told me and share to them how fascinating that side of Peru is, the culture and your traditions and practices?
Mhm. Well, maybe that point of the podcast, many of our listeners say, "Oh no, for this with this kind of situation, I prefer to avoid Peru as a destination." But on the other hand,
I don't think so. It will pop up in our destinations, yes.
on the other hand, for me, born as a Peruvian was the best gift from the life for me, because the best gift for me, because um like for me, Peru is not the corruption, it's not a bad government. For me, it's a temporary situation that as a community we have the opportunity to change that, the choice to change that in the, I hope, in the short or middle term of time, the middle future. But for me, Peru isn't that. And but what is Peru? Well, for me, Peru is a delicious gastronomic destination, a beautiful touristic place to discover more about the place where the ancient Inca's empire born, because
Oh,
it's in Cusco that where it's built the capital of this empire, as the Aztecas in Mexico. I think Mexico and Peru have one of the mm, the mm, the oldest histories in Latin America. The timeline is enormous. It's so large. But well, um, Peru. Peru is the place of the diversity too, because you can find different regions. Each one has particularly cuisine, particularly traditions, particularly ceremonies. In addition to that, as many our neighborhood countries, Peru is an Andean country. So for us, it's so important the indigenous influence, for example, in beliefs, because maybe you know we are speak Spanish as mother language, because Spain colonized Peru after the Incas Empire, during 3 cycles. So yeah, and we are a decolonized country now, but until now we're speaking Spanish. Before that, we were speaking Quechua. That now this language, and I include in this group, doesn't speak with frequency, because for us, well, it's other kind of issues. But in my case, my grandparents speak Quechua because they're from the Andes region. But in my case, I'm only speak Spanish from as a mother language, because I grew up in Lima. My education was in Spanish, and also all my community speak Spanish. So yeah, and well, but at the same time, I could listen my grandparents when they were speaking Quechua, and that's a beautiful language. And well, In addition to that, we promote a lot of the beliefs in the nature. We are naturalisms because we believe at the present we can harmonize the Catholicism with the naturalism's beliefs, with the granderism beliefs, because from our idea, God is present in our nature. God acts in us in across to the nature because many of them, and I include in this group too, we when we are sick, use traditional medicine or respect a lot the nature recurs because for us the salt, the ground, it's called Pachamama.
Yeah.
Pachamama. Yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sun is the Inti because it has a power to grow the plants, to contribute our good well-being. So yeah, and everything like that. The moon is called Skija. Every nature element as well as animals are so respectful for us because as in our case we believe every vivant form as well as the humans too is a representation of God. So for us it's idea to harmonize, right? Because before Spanish arrived in Peru and in this continent, we did many traditions to gods and to promote agriculture and well, like and also thing correlated. So yeah, well, that's one of the important uh, points in the field of our culture because against the pass of the time, against the circumstance that we confront, I believe we preserve our culture, preserve our traditions, we preserve the mindset we have. So because we believe after the diet, after the diet, we go to the Hanan Pacha and the Uchu Pacha, and this is different levels on the world when when our spirits go. So yeah, go there. So well, it's, and if you have the opportunity to go to Peru, you will discover that because I believe my community is warm. Many people from from different countries and different culture decided to visit mine. They discover a good welcome. They discover not only good food, not only good weather. They discover many people are read a network to support your life. In what way? You will find always someone who are open to help you to find a place to resolve doubts, so to help in the in the way of the possibility. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful expression of our culture. And that's the reason that many European people who decide to visit Peru told me, I want to return to Peru. I want to visit more other cities in Peru and discover because it's one of the magic elements of Peru, I believe, the community. Because and also I said you before, when we had to confront these cases of corruptions, of negative approach of the state of the system, we preserve not only our beliefs or not only our culture, we preserve the unity of that community. Because, as I said you before, if we had to go to the street and express ourselves, we will that. Because we believe that unity is the force, the capacity to do the battle, to fight this battle. So yeah, and yeah, that's the beautiful part of Peru, and I prefer if you can you can stay with this approach, because for me it's the essence of Peru. Not important who is in the power now, who will take a power after. We are the Peruvian community, and as community, we are so proof to share our culture, to share our principles, to share our essence.
Yes. And that is true. That is true. I mean, except for people who are keenly following the news and trying to find what's happening around the world, I think Peru still stands as the destination on top of our bucket list. And as Danny said, there's so much to discover in that country. And I know for a fact, we all know, through Danny, how warm people at Peru are, and that itself is reason enough for us to look forward to visiting Peru, being with the people there, and just immersing ourselves inside the culture of Peru. But thank you so much, Danny. That was such an amazing conversation we had. Like, we started off from the current situation, the politics, and then you took us through the situation with the government, and the conversation about Gina Boluarte, because she's one of a very, very strong leader, woman leader, that too, but one who has gained a lot of criticism as well. And we wanted to know the reality of it, and Danny has given such a good insight into it. And the very, very pressing issues of immigration and the laws and deportation and whatnot. And such a beautiful note to end the podcast, by understanding the culture of Peru and the real essence of the land. But amongst all the conversation, one thing I picked up was the low requirements of being the president, right? You just have to have your education in place. That's what you said, right, Danny? So can we expect you to do all the amazing things in the world and then come back to Peru and maybe one day even become the president of the country? Can we hope for that, Danny?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All wish for that too, because you are too articulate. You really know what you're speaking about at this age in time. You know exactly what the country needs, and I'm pretty sure with all the travel and experience that you gain, all the international exposure that you gain, I think you will be one of those big assets for the country when you return. And I sincerely wish that we do see people from Kectel Network in positions of power soon. And for you, Danny, I really, really wish from the bottom of my heart that you do find your own niche and space in building the country, and someday even be the person who leads the country. A lot of good wishes and prayers from my side. This has been such a truly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing all the experiences and perspectives with us today. Thank you for being so articulate. And it is very crucial for young people around the world to know and hear directly from people and voices like yours coming from the place of action. And it has been such an amazing conversation with you, Danny. Is there any closing words for any listeners who are who want to know more about Peru and who want to do you want to have any last words with them before we end the podcast?
Well, thank you so much for the space. Thank you so much, everyone who still be here and at this moment of the podcast, because I know it will be a lot of information to process, and a complex context if you don't have many reference. But I'm glad to have the opportunity to share this some example that can illustrate a little bit about what challenge the Latin American regions confront at this moment. And I hope, as you said, we as a new generation, as the new future generation who will have the opportunity to change, that will do a good job
Yes.
and rebuild our nation, rebuild this continent, have a lot of capacity. That if you know, well, all
Yeah.
Latin American countries are one of the not only beautiful and most productive countries around the world, around the all the world. That because we are productive countries that have a diversity in fruits, in vegetables, in plants, in animals, in everything about the culture, especially. And well, we have the responsibility to don't lose that and improve the state of our nations, our community now. So I hope this challenge will finishes in the short term. In also in the other part of the world, that I know the situation isn't the best in certain cases, like in in the Orient, Middle region, and or something like that, or in Europe instead. No, after I don't know, Trump decided to declare the fights against the European Union. No, I know. I think it's a globally critical state of government, but as society and as youth member of this new generation, we have the possibility to learn from this experience and don't allow to repeat in the near future, in the long future too. So I hope you learn about that, you discover what's challenge we have now in this part of the world, and but at the same time, don't stay only with this information. I improve you to looking for more about that in international press, in international portals like I don't know, New York Times, or an international organization like Amnesty or Transparency, or many ONGs that promote clear information about these issues. And yeah, I believe we can create a new nations, a new uh, government in the long future to build that, to rebuild that. So yeah, that's the for me the goal in this with this podcast.
Thank you so much. Yes, as Danny said, at this time in the history of mankind, there is a very big, like a political shift happening in most of the countries, in most of the regions of the world. And as youth, it's our responsibility to be the voice, just like Danny here. And it is our responsibility to rebuild the future. And with that, we wish you all the best, Danny. We wish to see you at take up more roles of responsibility and be that force within Kektil and outside and internationally. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And you listeners, thank you so much for tuning into Kektil World Youth Network podcast. We come back with more powerful stories and powerful voices just like Danny in the coming weeks. Stay tuned and bye bye.